Hello, good afternoon to all of you. First, we are going to present presentation on Gun Island, which is written by Amitav Ghosh. So I would like to quote here that climate change is like death. No one wants to talk about it. This is the group presentation, and presenters are Dhruvita Dhamelia, Divya Parmar, Emisha, Himanshi Parmar, and Jheel. In this presentation, we are going to cover the points like about the author, characters introduction, plot overview, themes of the novel, and articles reading, which are related to novel. So, key facts are uh, this novel is published at 6 June 2019. Author is, as I have told you, Amitav Ghosh. This is having a unique genre is sci-fi, and it is a historical fiction, and we will come to know when we will go to the themes that what is this historical fiction. This novel is written originally in English language, and this is the modern retelling of Bengali myth. Chapterization is done in a very unique way, like chapters are we will come to know that cities names, characters names, non-material like visions, dreams, and warnings. These are the example of the chapters names. This is the very good example of high imaginary vision of Amitav Ghosh. This novel it is translated into three languages, that is Hindi, Marathi, and Malayalam. Here I have put the blurb of the novel. Uh, Generally, blurb are for the commercial purpose, and by that we can come to know that what the work is about in a very brief idea. So I would like to read the blurb of this novel. It is like on a visit to his birthplace, Kolkata. A Brooklyn based dealer in rare books finds his life becoming entangled with an ancient legend about the goddess of snakes, Mansa Devi. While visiting a temple deep within the vast mangrove forest of Bengal, he has a disturbing encounter with the most feared and revered of Indian snakes, a king cobra. This is followed by a series of increasingly uncanny episodes that seem to dissolve the borders of the human and non-human. Actually, this novel is totally about uncanny episodes. Uncanny meaning the not actually exact mysterious, but something hard to get understanding about that. People with a diverse cast of characters and set in places that range from the Sundarbans to Los Angeles and Venice. This is a story about world in which creatures and beings of every kind have been torn loose from their accustomed homes by the catastrophic processes of displacement that are now unfolding across the earth at an ever increasing pace. It is also a story about a man whose faith in the world is restored by two remarkable women. So, who is Amitav Ghosh? Amitav Ghosh was born in Calcutta and grew up in India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. He studied in Delhi, Oxford, and Alexandria. These are the works by Amitav Ghosh: The Circle of Reason, The Shadow Lines, In an Antique Land, Dancing in Cambodia, The Calcutta Chromosome, The Glass Palace, The Hungry Tide, the Ibis trilogy, consisting of the sea of poppies, river of smoke, and flood of fire, the great derangement, climate change, and the unthinkable. This is the very remarkable work by him. He was honored by the various awards. There is a big list of awards, but I have put here a very prominent award he has got, that is Gyanpith Award. Here you can see Sahitya Academy Award, Ananda Puraskar, Dan David Prize, and Padma Shri. So now we are going to see the statement by him when he was present in the book festival in 2019. And he claimed that he is very influenced from the Bengali folklore. And when we go to the all works by him, we can come to know that he is actually inspired by the stories which are told to him. The conflict between the merchant and the goddess of snack is exactly the conflict between the profits, industry, and the environment. So he is telling about the novel, that what the novel is actually, and he is putting this both the conflict to portray this thing. The ancient story is conceptualized the basic issue at the heart of climate change. When he was at Chicago Humanities Festival, he claimed that climate change is uncanny like the novel is collection of uncanny episodes or series of uncanny episodes. Praised the description of basic emotions of beings in Bangla ancient stories, how people were so pure. Uh, he has mentioned in interview about Ice Age, Little Ice Age. The Little Ice Age was a period of regional cooling, particularly pronounced in the North Atlantic region. It was not a true ice age of global extent. The term was introduced into scientific literature by Francois Matthes in 1939. The period has been conventionally defined as extending from the 16th to the 19th century, but some experts prefer an alternative time span from about 13 to about uh, sorry 14th century to 19th century. The Little Ice Age was a period of bitter winters and mild summers uh, that affected Europe and North America between the 14th and 19th century. The cold weather is well documented in written records and supported by uh, paleoclimatic records such as tree rings and glaciers. What he thinks about this novel? My book is just an attempt to what I feel as I have always done, which is to respond in a creative way to the realities of our times. And these are the realities of our time, which why they figure in the book. It is not about climate change. That is, I disown such labels. It is having the links between the past and the present, and in those links, one of the link of period interesting is the 17th century, because which is the last time the earth went through the traumatic tribulation. And some claims are that this is the global novel because novel is containing a major issue or major concerning about the climate change. Research work for migration. He has lived there with refugee, and and to the days were eye-opening to him. And he go to the etymological history when we refer the book, we can come to know. So my learning outcome is climate change. The topic was not new, but the less interested. After went through this novel, it has become the concern. As author is very capable to make aware his readers with his enough seriousness and literariness. Amitav Ghosh said in one of his interview when he is asked that it is not the worry for the old generation people, and they are not getting this problem as much as younger generation people are making themselves aware towards it as a problem. So it was a journey from topic to concern. Novel makes me curious to read more through the lens of climate change. Thank you. Now, further presentation, I would like to call Divya.
Hello everyone, myself Divya Parmar, and today I am going to deal with the uh, topic characters. So here I have divided characters into the three parts mainly. The character presented as a researcher, the character from the India, and the character from the mythical story. So the very first character is the protagonist Dinonath Datta. who is also known as Dino or Din. He is the protagonist of the novel, and in this part, he is doing research on the folklore in novel where he presented at his age was 50, but before that he is going to the USA for the research, and that time the topic of research was folklore. The another character was Piali Roy, and she is doing a research on the marine biology, and she is working with the lady Nilima Bose with in context of her trust. The third character is Jia Sinta Shivan. She is a historian, and the second part, the characters from the this characters of Kunai Dutt, Nilima Bose, Moina and her husband Fokir, Tipu, Horan Naskar, Muslim boatman, and the Rafi. Here, Kunai Dutt is a relative of the protagonist Dinonath Dutt, and the Nilima Bose is a founder of the NGO. Moina is a nurse, and her husband Fokir was died during the help of the in research to Piali. The Tipu is the son of the Moina and Fokir. Horen Naskar is a uh, fisherman and the Muslim boatman, and his grandson was Rafi, who is taking care of the Sirin of the Mansa Devi. Here the character from the mythical story, which is told by the Nilima Bose, and the Mansa Devi is the character. She is a Devi of serpents. Then the second character is the gun merchant, and in this story the myth was a Chand Sadgar, and the Lakinder was son of the Chand Sadgar, and the Behula is the daughter-in-law of, and the Nakhuda Ilyas is the captain of the ship. The other characters we introduce with the Lisa, entomologist and the teaching. Gisela or the Gisa, she is the she. Here we found that she is the granddaughter of the Ruggiero, and his father was Alterio. Here we found that the another character Ima, uh, Jisa and Imas are partners. Here the another character Giacomo and Lucia. There is also the people introduced as the migrated people from the Bengal to Italy. List of some migrated characters in the novel. Lubana Khala, Alam, Munir, Palash, Bilal, and Kabir. So my learning outcome is my reading of this novel leads me to the lead about the climate changes with happening around the world. And if we read the characters like Dinona, Datta, Piali, Sinta, and all are educated people, but the Piali's research topic is related to the marine biology and climate changes. Migration peoples believe on the mythology. Uh, by Amitav, and also he present the character of a Jisa who wanted to make a documentary upon the migrated people in Italy from the Bengal. Amitav noticed the all contemporary things and the documented in the novel, and also by the characters of a Jisa, we find that all contemporary and important things can be uh, can be noticed by the literature. This how author draws the real sketch of the world front of our eyes with the novel. Now further I would like to call Jheel Bharat for the plot.
So first, I will deal with the plot overview of the novel. In the novel, we see that the narrator is moving over various lands like in Italy. and in California and is coming to India in the beginning of the novel. The novel begins with our narrator Dinanath Datta coming to Kolkata in the winters to his native place as the winters are not bearable in the cold region. So first we will see the maps. We will see that the novel will begin in the India, here in the Bengal, in the West Bengal where the Sundarban National Park is there. Then further, the novel moves in the United States, and in the United States, we find in United States, one of our character is New York, Italy, where our protagonist is working, and Piali Roy, which is introduced in the characters, is in Oregon, working in Oregon. Then they are going, the Piali and Dinanath Datta are going for one conference in Los Angeles, California, which is here in California. The novel is also going to Italy here. Sorry, our character Dinanath is in Venice. They are also going in Venice, which we have seen in USA, and is living in Italy. We see that the here also region is near the ocean in Venice, and all the region in the map we see wherever our characters are moving are all the region are near the oceans. Here we can see that here where the novel is mainly focusing in Sundarbans is near ocean, here in Italy, then here Venice, here Los Angeles where they are going for the conference, and here Oregon where Pia Leroy is there. The two major themes which are dealt in this novel is climate upheaval and mass migration. Here mass migration is not only relating to the migration of the human beings, but it is also talking about the migration of the animals. And the main reason of migration which is shown in the novel is climate upheaval. In human it is for more better life and for economic concerns, while in the animal we see the climate concern. The novel is mainly divided into two parts. The first part is the gun merchant, and the second part is Venice. In the gun merchant, the sub-chapters are Calcutta, Chinta, Tipu, Dhrush Rhine, Visions, Rani, Brooklyn, Wildfires, Los Angeles, and Gun Island. Here, Chinta, Tipu, Rani are the name of the characters. Kolkata, Brooklyn, Los Angeles are the name of the places, and wildfires is giving us a climate change whole season. Then here in the Venice, the ghetto, Ruffy, strandings, friends, dreams, warnings, high water, crossings, wind. The Lucania, it is the name of the ship which they are hiring, sightings and the storm. Beginning with the plot overview, this novel, The Gun Island, is a sequel of Amitav Ghosh's novel, The Hungry Tide. Many of the characters, like the Piyali Roy and the background story of Tipu's father, is coming from the novel Hungry Tide. The protagonist of the novel is Dinanath Datta, which is also called as Dino, and Din. He is a dealer of rare books and ancient antiquities. He is going to Kolkata from Brooklyn in the winter season. Protagonist introduction to the world Bonduki Sadagar, that is the gun merchant, while returning his domicile land, Kolkata. When the novel begins on the very first chapter, the protagonist is talking in the first person and is telling that he was introduced to the word Bonduki Sadagar not in Brooklyn but in his domicile place, that is in Calcutta. When he is going to Calcutta, as usual we see that when someone is coming from the foreign, he goes to meet his relatives in his native place. He is going in one of the gathering, a family gathering, and there he is meeting his distant relative Kannai Dutt. The Kannai Dutt is introducing him, is making our protagonist is a folklore. He has done PhD and mostly in the folklore, and he has talked a lot about all the Bengali myths which are told mouth to mouth stories. And Kannai Dutt is making fun that as you have done a PhD in or doctorate in the folklore, then you must be knowing everything about the story of Bonduki Sadagar. And in their conversation, there comes a presence of a myth that is of Chand Sadagar and the Mansa Devi. We are going to talk about the myth of Bonduki Sadagar, that is the gun merchant, and Mansa Devi. And here they converse about myth of Chand Sadagar and Mansa Devi, in which it happens that Chand Sadagar's son was killed on the first night of the marriage, and then his son's wife Behula is praying to Mansa Devi and bringing the life of his husband back. Then Kannai Dutt is asking our protagonist to meet Nilima Bose, who is knowing the story of gun merchant Bondugi Sadakar, and then comes the backstory of Nilima Roy. Firstly, our protagonist was not ready to meet Nilima Roy, but later, Kannai Dutt is telling that there is a woman named Piyali Roy who is known as Pia in whole novel, is also coming from a foreign land, that is Oregon, and is working here. Pia has adopted to the family of Tipu, and as the novel opens, we come to know that that Tipu's father Fokir was working with Pia in one research work, and in that research work, Fokir died in safeguarding Pia, and so Pia has somewhere a guilt about it, and so he adopts to Tipu, and Tipu, the son of Fokir, and tries to fulfill all his needs. Here. The Tipu's name is Tutul, but then Tutul is going to America with the help of Pia for the education, and so he changed his name to Tipu. And Tipu's mother's name is Moina Mandol. Who is Nilima? The Nilima was working in an NGO. He married to an impoverished school teacher and came to Lucybury, a small town on the edge of Sundarbans, and there they had grown one trust. It was the most reputed charitable organization. They used to work for the people who have faced some issues in the climate change. They had to dislocate, or they had like we see the natural calamities happening, and most of the NGOs are going to provide food to them, and this trust is also working like that. Once they got the news about a Bhola cyclone which happened near Sundarbans, and so this news came to Nilima Bose through Horen Naskar. He was a boatman, and they decided to go for the supplies distribution in all the region near the Sundarbans who were victim of Bhola cyclone. Here the reference of Bhola cyclone is real cyclone which actually happened in Sundarban. And when they are going, they see that there was one region which had any harm due to cyclone. And there comes a story that this region was not harmed because of the Mansa Devi shrine which was present there. And then Nilima Bose got little interested to know about, and he tried to asked various locals about the shrine, that how the shrine came here. Then Nilima Bose got some news and came back. Then as our protagonist Dino came, and she decided that as he is interested in the folklore, Nilima Bose was worried that if this story about the shrine was not documented, then it will get lost. And so she is requesting to our protagonist that he should write about this shrine after doing some research work. But here, yes, that's and Nilima Bose is talking that the shrine was like the temples of Vishnupur. The custodian then As we discussed ago, the protagonist was not much interested, but he heard the story, and the notable thing I read was our protagonist was recording everything for the documentation. He was not interested, but he had a habit of recording everything about whatever he gets to listen. And then he comes back to his room and thought that he don't need to go to the shrine, but then he gets gets a call from Chinta, his old friend of foreign, and then he Chinta, the main two female protagonists is Pia and Chinta, who are connected to Dino. And Chinta was a character who was not as rational as Pia. Chinta used to believe in all these mythical stories, and she used to feel that this is somewhere has really happened. And after talking with Chinta, our Dino decides to go to the shrine, and there it was a tough tour for him to going to shrine because he was not used to all that. And after going there he meets a character Rafi. Rafi was at present in the contemporary time in novel a only caretaker of the shrine. Actually, the Rafi's grandfather used to take care of the shrine, and that boatman was not a custodian or a caretaker, but he was living with the Hindu Gayans family. Hindu Gayans, in a way, are ballad singers. They were custodians of of the shrine, and the boatman Maji used to live with them. But unfortunately, the Hindu Gayan family passed away, and the boat no, that was during the time of the partition of the Indian subcontinent. The boatmen had been looking after the dham. Due to partition, the Hindu Gayan family had to leave the place, and then this boatman was taking care of the shrine. And the Rafi was the only one at present taking the care. There is an encounter between Rafi and Dino. Rafi is telling the story behind the shrine, whatever he knew. He told the dham was reserved by all irrespective to religion. Hindus believed that it was Mansa Devi who guarded the shrine, while Muslims believed that it was a place of jinns protected by the Muslim Pir or saint by the name of Ilyas. The story is opening further a lot in the novel, and he talks about the story related to shrine that the gun merchant came here and made this shrine because he promised something to Mansa Devi and he couldn't fulfill the promise. So he was getting away from Mansa Devi and finding a lot of place to hide. And then too he was not able to safeguard himself. And then Mansa Devi once caught and told that if you make my shrine in Bengal, I will leave you. And then the gun merchant comes back to Bengal and builds this shrine. Here in this all description, there comes a name of the various islands. That is the island of chains. That is Shikol Dweep. Then Nilima told the story of gun merchant she gathered from the boatman, which I have written the page numbers also where the story is described in the original text. It is on page number 16 and 17. And when he is talking to Chinta, Dino is also getting a memory of another female character who was Durga. He was ex of Dino, but Durga was killed in an encounter because she had an extreme Marxist point of view, and in that duration, as there were various ideologies fighting, and at that encounter, Durga was killed. Then our Dino was trying to solve when the shrine was built, when he was sitting alone, and uh, he makes various ideas that it might be built during the reign of Aurangzeb, as it is an idea which came from that Mughal emperor. he thought that it was built in the date range which he estimated was 1605 to 1690 because it has and Bishnupur architecture which has a merge of Islam and Hindu elements. Then call from Professor Jia Chinta, and they have a conversation about the visit of Chinta into the Bengal. And there comes a reference that when Chinta visited to Bengal, she visited to one of the performance, and and in that Dino was not able to recall what performance it was. Then he went to all the documentation that he did, and there he came to know the performance which was visited by Chinta was also related to Mansa Devi, and he thinks that the story of Mansa Devi is in the air since years. Then goes to the shrine and meets to the Rafi there and Tipu. The character of Tipu also comes there when they are going to shrine, and Rafi he meets in the shrine, and all the conversation and the backstory of Tipu is coming. And another version of Gun Merchant is also coming, which is told by the boatman. And there comes a Captain Ilyas, and as it is told on page number 55. The story comes as the Horace is telling that his recollections of the legend were quite different from the Nilima's. The calamities that figured in it loomed much larger his memory than they did in hers. Here, according to the Horan Nuskar, who was the boatman, the great cyclone was responsible for the gun merchant going out of the island and roaming everywhere. Half of the people have died of starvation. Parents had sold their children, and people had been reduced to eating carcasses. The narration which he gets is completely different. Is when the gun merchant is returning back to the island, his family was killed, and so he decides to go back. And what happens according to the story of Horan Naskar, the gun merchant was having his voyage, then he was captured by the pirates. Pirates took him as a slave, as there was the slaves were sold. He was taken. Then Captain Ilyas buys two gun merchant, and then Captain Ilyas feels that gun merchant is quite capable and decides not to keep him as a slave and frees him after buying him. This was the story which was told by Horen Nuska. Then when they reach to the shrine there, he sees some of the symbols, our character. This is the symbol of Mansa Devi and gun merchant, which is interpreted by Dino. This is Gun Island, that is a gun island which is solved further, and here what our character interprets is the helmeted figure. This was indeed a pirate, then the leader of the hermits who had captured the gun merchant. The further story about merchant and Captain Ilyas who bought him by Rafi, then Rafi is telling his own interpretation of the story, and then Dino feels that as it is the shrine of Mansa Devi, the snake must be there, and there comes a cobra, and Tipu was trying to safeguard Dino, and the cobra bites to Tipu. Then they are taking Tipu to the hospital, and in that duration, Tipu is getting some visions, and in visions he tells that Rani is in danger. Then that Dino calls to Pia and asks about Rani, but who is Rani is told in the next chapter. That is, Rani was a dolphin. She was an important part of Pia's research, and as Tipu is telling that there is a danger, the news comes that the dolphin beaching news in the newspaper. The beaching is the dolphin themselves kill themselves together coming on the island. It's like a suicide done by the group of dolphins on the island of Garjantala. And Pia thinks the culprit of this is refinery, that is the industries which are built in the Sundarbans, and they get their the Pia and Dino is having the conversation about it. And I have divided the novel into three parts according to the places. These all conversation which happened, that is the opening up of the story of the shrine, and the introduction of the characters was in Kolkata. Then Dinu is going to Brooklyn back. Here there is a wonderful etymology of few words like bhuta and shaman. Dinu is getting one mail from Bonduki at the rate bonduki.com. Then it was by Tipu, and Tipu is having a question that what exactly does Bhuta mean, and they come to, after several conversation, they come to a conclusion that it means a being or an existing presence. It is a wonderful etymology which we find in the novel, and various words has its etymologies. Then Dinu is having a chat with Pia about Tipu, and Lisa comes into the scene there. Lisa is a friend of Pia. She was a researcher. She is submitting one research work in which he is telling that the bark beetles are eating away all the trees in the jungles, which will result into the wildfire soon. But no one is believing her, and everyone thinks that she is making the stories to spread is trying to spread fake news. But later the wildfires are seen in Los Angeles, and here we see that what happens to the intellectuals, that she gets blamed. Everyone thinks that it was it was Lisa who did fires in the jungle to prove her research correct. And this was the conversation between the Pia and Dino. Pia is talking about Lisa, what happened to her, and there comes a statement. It's like we are back in the dark ages, women being attacked as witches. That is, as we have got the reference of mad women in the attic. Then comes the Tipu ask about possession and the greed. Again, intellectual conversation between Tipu and Dino. Tipu was in Bangalore. He was doing some work there. Then Dino has to go to a conference in Los Angeles about the climate and apocalypse in the 17th century, and several things happens with Dino in the flight. He acts very weird. As he goes into the flight, he reads about the wildfires, news about the wildfires, and he feels that now he will face several uh, several problems. So he won't be able to attend conference or won't come back. Then he screams there. Another thing happens that all the flight crew members are pacifying him. He is sitting silently and he tries to listen a song. His mobile was connected to the Bluetooth speaker, and as he goes starts the song, it was a song Allahu, which came in the Bluetooth speaker, and everyone again was having a doubt towards him as he was in the flight. First, he screamed and created a weird atmosphere in the flight, and there comes a song related to Allahu. And then he was taken by the crew members, and his phone and laptops, everything was checked. Then when they were landing in Los Angeles, Dino sees that the wildfires was everywhere, in a lot in the jungles, and that also he says that wildfires are not negative for everyone. In that period, he says the eagles were going down and bringing a snake as a food from the wildfires, and he gets afraid of looking at the snake, and gets a story of Mansa Devi and the scene of Cobra, and he starts shouting like snake, snake, and again again everyone in the flight has a weird look towards him. Then he goes to the conference, and conference place was changed due to wildfires, and in the conference speeches are elaborated in the novel. One is about the 17th century by a key speaker, and another of Chintas. He is talking about the folklore and how 17th century and climate change was there, but which was not documented anywhere, and it is not seen by anyone. Then he talks up to the Chinta about the story of gun merchant and Mansa Devi, and it is a whole chapter named Gun Island where they are talking about the story. There, Chinta is trying to solve all the problems in the solving the words in the mind of Dino. Chinta says that it might be possible that this story was real. Here, the Bonduki Sadagar is not the gun merchant but a merchant from Venice. In the speech of Chinta, there were many references about the Venice, which inspired Dino that there might be something related to the Venice, and he gets a solution that Bonduki Sadagar is not a gun merchant but a merchant from the Venice. Here I have made a temple. The Arabic name of Venice is Al Bandukiya, which gives a birth to a name, Banduki Sadagar. Then the reference of various lands was given by Rafi, which was sold by Chinta. That is the land of palm sugar candy, which can be the originally which is Tal Misrir Desh, and which was according to Chinta it can be Egypt. They have given all the elaborated explanations that how it can be. Then he land of kerchiefs. There is Rumali Desh, which was translated into land of kerchiefs, but actually it is the fort of Rumali Hisri, which is present in the Turkey. And this symbol, which was read at Mansa Devi and the gun merchant, it was Aleph. It is an alphabet from a Hebrew language, which must be Ilyas as a Jew, as it was sold. Then they come to Chinta and Dino thinks that gun merchant is not a story as it is told by the locals like Rafi, Haran Naskar and Nilami Bose, but it must be that the merchant of the Venice is moving to the place Egypt, Turkey with Ilyas and is in Venice. And like this, they solve all the myth which is told by the local, and then Chinta is inviting to Dino that you must come to visit Venice and we will roam in the Venice, that did actually gun merchant exist in the Venice or not. Then they Chinta ask for a promise from Dino to visit New York. But later, when Dino is returning to the Brooklyn, he sees that he is broke. He don't have a money. Then again here comes a chance that Jisa, who was a cousin's daughter, Chinta's cousin's daughter, Giza was Chinta's uncle Rugerio's son's Alterio's daughter, and there he was a documentary maker. He calls to Dino that he wants to make a documentary of the migrators who are living in the Venice, who are Bangladeshis, and for that she wants a translator. And then Dino gets a thought that how a Bangladeshis can be in the Venice. It was completely out of the mind from the Dino that people of Bangladesh can also be in Venice. Then he visits to a Venice, and the part of the Venice begins with the kinship between the Varanasi and the Venice. He gives certain similarities between both the land, and he calls that it is a land of mortals. As he is moving in the Venice, the word hears is a Shabdan. he was to be at it was a construction place, and something was going to be fallen in Dino, and he was warned by word Shabdan, which is a Bengali word. And there he sees Rafi for the first time in the Venice, and he was shocked to see the Rafi in Venice. He goes to Lubna Khala. Lubna Khala is a lady who is helping migrants in the Venice. He goes to Lubna Khala and comes. There comes whole backstory of Lubna Khala, her husband Munir. Then he returned to the flat. He was living in the flat of Chinta. Had a call from Jiza and talks everything about the Venice. Our character Dino has talked to Lubna Khala that if he has someone there and if anyone in his nearby is ready to give an interview as a migrant, and then he talks with a Jiza and he gets a number from Lubna Khala of Rafi. Then he calls to Rafi and he wants to know that how Rafi is there in the Venice. And if Rafi is in Venice, then where is Tipu? He went to Rafi, he was selling ice cream, and there they gets an encounter with a poisonous spider. And during that time, Rafi is telling a extended story which he knew, and he says that through the poisonous spider is also a part of a story of a gun merchant. Gun merchant was trying to hide from Mansa Devi, and he closes himself in a closed iron walled room, and that room also he gets killed, and when all the investigation was done, he was killed through a poisonous spider. This story was added by Rafi for Dino. He for in exchange of a story, Rafi took 44 euro from Dino, and he forced Dino to go from there. Then on that night, Rafi was beaten by someone, and then it comes to know that they were the human smuggler who who were connected to human smuggler and trafficking who beat to Rafi. And then when Dino is trying to know that why it happened, then he came to know from the Bilal. Bilal was a roommate of the Rafi, and Bilal talks about his story, his friendship with Bilal and Kabir. That when they were trying to come illegally to the Venice, they got separated, and he explains that when you are going illegally to another land and one of your friend gets separated, you will do anything to safeguard him, and that was what Rafi was doing. When they were coming to Venice, and there is a whole explanation about their route, that how they came, what happened, and how this and there comes the theme of human smuggling and trafficking, that how humans can illegally go, which is reality today also. We see the various people trying to move to America from Canada, that illegally, and in that route near Turkey, Tipu is left behind and Rafi goes forward. And then once Rafi is getting a call from Tipu that he is alive and safe, and he in the dream he is having one Ethiopian woman, and in the dream Ethiopian woman is telling him to come to Egypt, and so Tipu decides to go to Egypt, and so he needed money, and so Rafi was doing some was taking money from the dalals, and he was not able to give money, and so he was beaten up. During that time, Dino gets a call from a Jisa that is about a boatload of refugees had been spotted in the eastern Mediterranean, and that boat is known as the Blue Boat in this novel, and it can be the important part for the documentary in Jisa's documentary. So he calls to Dino that if he can help about having an interview with them, and this scene is happening, and parallel Pia is calling to Dino that she has got one mail from an unknown sender, and she doubts that it's Tipu, and the email was about the beaching of dolphins at Garjantola Island in the Sundarbans. And then the story opens up that Tipu was lying to his mother Moina that Tipu is working in one country, in one big company, and it was a lie by Tipu, and even he was sending some photographs, group photographs in a suit and tie, but it were morphed photographs which was known by Pia later. Then Pia asks to talks to Tipu that everything that happened, and he came to know everything about Tipu from Moina. And the question arises that where is Tipu? And during that time, Rafi was in hospital. His housemate Bilal told all the story between Bilal and Kabir, their backstory. And all after knowing all this, at night when Dino goes to the flat, he gets an encounter with a spider. He is sending a photo to Pia, and Pia's friend Larry studies to spider, and they come to know that it was a poisonous spider which was not generally found in Venice, but has came to Venice due to the climate change. Then Dino is going to Lubna Khala, and he meets to a new character, that is Palash. Came to Venice for the study. He is a character who migrated to Venice legally for education, while all other characters who were migrating or dislocating to the Venice were coming illegally or due to some or the other reasons, but not for the education purpose. Then he asked about the blue boat to Lubna Khala, and Lubna Khala was already arranging or hiring a ship to go to the blue boat for helping to all these refugees, while all the ministers in the authority around the Mediterranean Sea already refused to have that refugees on their land. They were not ready to have all these people from the boat on their land. Then Dino talks to Chinta that what type of issues he is facing, and then Chinta decides that let us go into Venice and Rome and see if we where gun merchant might have gone into Venice. And they go. Then there is a description of a history of Venice and the plague that happened in Venice. And there comes they go to the church of Madonna, and there comes a similar story to the Mansa Devi, that the region where there was the church of Madonna, they were not affected by the plague. And the reason for that, which was given by locals, was that because Madonna safeguarded them. And the same story was seen in Mansa Devi's shrine, that they were not affected by the calamities because there was a shrine of Mansa Devi. And then they roam all around. They go to library, they go to church, and then they are going to one place where Chinta's grandfather and uncle was going for fishing. And there suddenly there is a collapse of a bridge, and Chinta and Dino, what were both, it was high water and a collapse of a bridge, and there was no one around, and suddenly Bilal came there and Bilal safeguarded them. Then Chinta was admitted into hospital. Same it was with the Rafi. And then Rafi tells the whole story, that how they illegally got transferred, and Tipu saw Ethiopian women, and he saw one photo from the newspaper about the blue boat, and he identified Tipu, that Tipu is in this blue boat, and so they need to go to the blue boat. Then they decided to join the Libna Khala to rescue the blue boat. They hired a boat from Maghera. Everyone joined there. Pia also came. Chinta also went. Rafi also went. The ship they hired was Lucania. Then island of chains, she called Whip. Then the slowly and steadily all the words get come with etymology of all the words are given. The island of change, which was Shikoldrap, was Sicily. Sicily. Then the story of Chinta, there was also a backstory of Chinta, that his husband and his daughter Lucia were killed in an accident, and there was a doubt that his husband was a journalist, and he tried to open up the story about some mafias, and she believed that it was a mafia who made mafias that had an accident of his husband and daughter. And Chinta used to feel that her daughter Lucia is always around her. Then they are going to, there comes an hailstorm, there comes an tornado, all the natural calamities are explained in the novel as we go further when they are going to rescue the blue boat. Then they are on the ship. Pia is telling the backstory about the Fakir, and Fakir, as I discussed, that he was Tipu's father and died in a research work helping to Pia. Then and she thinks that Tipu still blames her for his death. And Jisa during that period, Jisa, that uh, relative of Chinta, is hearing the voice of Lucia, that is Chinta's daughter. And in the ship they see the school of cetaceans. uh, uh, Pia was doing a research on the cetaceans. Cetaceans are the various types of dolphins. There are in the novel also elaborates 7 to 8 type of dolphins. Then they get a satellite image of blue boat, and all in all here the authority has already refused to have uh, that refugees on their land, but and there was an attack by the white right wingers for not having them on the land, and much happened on that voyage while they were going to rescue the blue boat. The blue boat was finally rescued. There comes a backstory of Palash. Palash is talking to Dino that he came here for education, but later he couldn't study, and he was not even able to go to his domicile uh, native place because he was ashamed of showing his face to his family. That he went to study, but he couldn't study. And there comes a conversation about the books and the mobile between the Palash and Dino. The right wing were not anti-immigrant group, and in this voyage they see a bioluminescence which all the birds were in the sky. It was like a dark cloud. There were dolphins around the ship, and it was a beautiful natural scene. According to Pia, being a researcher, she said that normally it doesn't happen, which signifies that it is not normal, but everything happened due to the climate change. In the end, it comes that Tipu is safe at last. And Navy Admiral Vigonovo, he was being interviewed. He was ordered by the authority that he don't have to safeguard the blue boat refugees, but yet he chooses his duty above the order which he got from the authority and is safeguarding the refugees. In the end, it happens that Chinta is dying in the novel. The novel ends with the sentence of Chinta is no more. And she talks to Dino that Lucia has came to take her with him. He pushed along by situations that one could just as easily attribute to mere chance or global warming or the worthful vengeance of goddess Cront. He pushed along with he's here in the novel we see when I read the novel I thought that Dino or Tipu or Chinta might be one of the gun merchant or a Mansa Devi, and the story will revolve around it. But in the simple terms, if we see a story, then it is the narrator going to domicile land, then getting to know about the story of Mansa Devi. He was not interested, but some by chances, and he gets to know more and more about the story. He talks with Chinta. He thinks that it is interesting, and then he goes to Venice, where he thinks interprets some of the references of the Merchant of the Venice, and goes to Venice, and there a whole myth opens up in a way that it was in a way real, but the story which was told by locals in a way of goddesses, it was not reality. Amitav Ghosh has. There was a question that this novel is all about uncanny. For example, Dino was broke. He was not able to go to Venice, but he gets a chance to go to Venice through the call of Jisa. he was not interested to go to the shrine, but through the call of Chinta, he is going to shrine. This the novel is based on chances, and when he was asked, he said that climate-related migration and displacement change is uncanny, disoriented. So to write about it today is to write about uncanny, and so the novel is more about uncanny, which is also written in the blood. We don't know what's happening in worldwide. Uncanny is the heart of book. In the review by Rita Joshi in the World Literature Organization, it is told that a talk held in New Delhi after the release of the novel, Ghosh stated that the merchant was a trope for dread. The merchant and the goddess dramatize the conflict between prophet and the world. So through the myth, Ghosh is trying to tell a conflict between the prophet and the world. In the novel, the goddess pursues the merchant to make him aware of other realities like the animal world. Human driven as was the merchant by the quest of profit, would recognize no restraint in relation to other living beings. And Clark in The Guardian has told, amid the freak cyclones and oxygen-starved waters comes the story or stories of migration across the edges, tales of escapology, of deprivation and persecution, of impossible yearnings for a new world that brings us inexorably to the terrified refugees of the Mediterranean, which is perhaps Ghosh's essential point. A shaggy dog story can take a very roundabout path towards reality, but it will get there in the end. It has to, or we are all doomed. And in Kenyon Review, Gun Island's worldview is largely a positive one. In a culture saturated with tales of impending or past apocalypses of survivalism and ruthlessness, Ghosh paints a picture of compassion and community. So, in a simple way, the story is about the myth, and the protagonist is going to see if myth is real or not. And in all these traveling and voyages, we realize that writer is all trying to demonstrate the mass migration and the climate changes happening in the society. And we also come to know that myths which are told in reality are perhaps not the actual myth, but some incident which happened, might happen real in the world, but it is told in a way of some divinity. Now further I'm going to talk about the cover page. The cover page was designed by Nirupa Rao. She is a botanical artist of Bangalore. And Iyengar citing to Rao in the Indian Express has said that since the novel is set in Sundarbans, I was keen to include some floral typical of an area too. I provided them with a few sketch options and they along with coach settled on the design and finally made the cover. And Nirupa has said that she designed this cover as it was related to Mansa Devi, the snake, and it was majorly set in the Sundarbans. So to show the mangroves and florals, she has drawn floral. This image is from the Nirupa Rao's Insta post that when she was drawing about, and I found this cover page also. This cover page is of UK when it was released in UK. We see that Nirupa Rao has designed many of the covers for Amitav Ghosh. I'm not able to open her page. She is having her own website, and majorly all the novels related to the climate change by Amitav Ghosh is designed by her. So finally, my learning outcome. Here are the various quotes which I found effective in the novel and which brought some of the new ideas that don't set yourself up to fail yet again. Which symbol through which we can say that we should not do the same mistake again and again in life, which will give us a failure. once we know that this can bring, we have experienced that this can bring a failure to us, trying is good, but wasting of time behind anything which will be harmful for us should not be done. Do you think that people elsewhere don't believe in such things? Here, being an Indian, we feel that India is a region where everyone believes in myth and religion, and we try to, we don't see India with a better place for living and education. But in the novel, we see that Chinta, being a white lady, being coming from a foreign, is also believing in all this myth, which is shown by the myth of Madonna. Then other thing, people think that knowing the future can help you prepare for what is to come, but often it only makes you powerless. And this is experienced by everyone. If we take a simple example of an exam, we feel that perhaps we get a question paper for tomorrow, we can come to know what is going to be asked in future. But after reading this, I realized that even if we get a question paper, we are not going to do anything. We will procrastinate that it is only four answers we will do, and we become more powerless in that. It's always a mistake to do a easy thing just out of habit, and this can also be related to us in our regular life. That when we are given several tasks, and if the one is difficult, challenging task, and one is easier task, we go for an easier task, and we think that because we don't have a time to do that, but it has where it turns our habit, we don't know. We always go in search of easy path and don't try to do anything difficult, but it is our habit. Impossible is nothing, just do it. Time itself is in ecstasy. By after reading this quote, it says that what is happening in present, today's time is only happiness, and we are as normal human being, we are always thinking of the future, that after completing this, I will do this, that I will have a job, I will earn, all are the which are the daydreaming which we usually do. But we forget in that period that what we are doing is necessary to be enjoyed, and if we do those things happily today, will perhaps give us a more better future. Through the character of Admiral, we get an idea about order and the duty, that he pursued his duty and didn't follow the order. This was the first time that I tried to read the whole novel. Before I have read, but majorly the novels which I read were abridged version. In when we go through the novel, it is really difficult to go through the skin of the characters. And when I completed novel, I forgot that how the novel began, and it becomes difficult to comprise whole novel in a brief way. Here in the novel, there was a sense of dissatisfaction when it got completed. When we are reading stories, we always bind something in our mind that it will end like this. And as I say that, I thought that one of the character might be a gun merchant, and the theme or the myth of Mansa Devi and gun merchant will be repeated on the that character. But the novel ends completely differently. Chinta, the main last sentence is Chinta is gone. And we don't understand that if we don't go through the review and summaries, then we don't understand that what actually this novel is trying to say. Our small actions can be responsible for various changes. This can be seen in the positive and negative both the way. Today, when we are doing anything, we don't realize that what it might be affecting to the animal world. And after doing reading of the novel, I came to the realization that uh, even a small even a small change in the human world is also bringing a change in the animal world. They are also migrating, and their migration is also affecting to the people living in another region. So our small deed can be a greater result in whole human and animal world. Easy path can lead us to difficulties, which is seen by the life of a Tipu character Tipu, that he want. If we see the character of a Tipu growing, we see that he was always ambitious. He wanted to do something big, but always through the wrong path. He even went to America for the education, and there also he got into wrong company. And we can see that Tipu always wanted to do something but went for the easy path, which harmed his not only him but his family and relatives also. And how someone is accepted as divine. And as I discussed that we feel the myth is a real story about some goddess or a divine character. But if we read this novel, then at the end we see that it was a merchant who was having his voyage on by his own, and here the myth was created only by the locals. And after reading about the cover page done by Rao, it gives a new way of career that if you are interested in art, you can also design a cover pages of various books. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to deal with themes. There are four major themes in the novel, and the first of them is etymological mystery, and along with that, I'm going to discuss about the title of the novel. So first, let me begin with title. And in the title, that there is a word gun that is stand for Venice. And by this original lines, we have to understand that the original lines are, and through Arabic the name of Venice has traveled far afield to Persian and parts of India, where to this day guns are known as banduk, which is of course none other than Venice or Venetians. So for the word gun, the word banduk is used in the novel, and the banduk is also mentioned as a Venice or Venetian in the novel. So ultimately, the gun island is a Venice, and the another thing is like gun merchant or banduki sadagar. We have the character of this in the novel. So when the word gun island is similar to Venice, so the gun merchant is must be a merchant who visited to Venice. And there is a dialogue of Dinanath. The dialogue is, what is possible that I had completely misunderstood the name Banduki Sadagar? Could it be that it meaning was not the gun merchant as I had thought, but rather the merchant who went to Venice? Now the third is ghetto. So generally we are aware about that ghetto is a residency where Jewish people are living all around the world. That is the meaning of the ghetto. But here in the novel we find that the word ghetto is not related to Jews but used for an island within an island. That is the there is an image of island within an island we find in the novel, or we can say Sundarban is there. And this we understand by this dialogue that the old ghetto is an island within an island, as you can see. And the another dialogue is, the island that was allotted to the Jews, she said, had previously been a foundry where the armaments, including bullets, were cast. And the word for foundry is the old Venetian dialect was ghetto, and this had become the name of the city's Jewish settlement. Not only would this settlement become a great center of Jewish learning, it would also lead to the coming of certain words which ghetto was only one. So now the word ghetto is used for the island within an island, but generally after what happened, that when Jewish are moved somewhere else and they are made their residencies somewhere else, that place are also started knowing as a ghetto. Even there is no if there is no foundry, the place is known as ghetto. Then the fourth word is booth. Usually booth means ghost, but in the novel we find that it is used to describe that it means that past of being. And booth here also stand for memories, that is time and again coming in the present, in the time and again it is overpowering people, and it is present in the present moment. So that we find here that the root or etymology of the word bhuto is here. Uh,
I can tell you is that the Bangla word bhoot or bhuta comes from a basic but very complicated Sanskrit root bhu, meanings to be or to manifest. So, in this sense, bhuta simply means a being or an existing presence. And Bhuta also refer to the past in the sense of past state of being, like when we say Bhutkala or times past. Now the fifth word is possession. So possession is when someone is taking over by demons. And here in the novel, it means like metaphor for greed. It's a metaphor for greed, and it is an imaginary thing. So, Chinta is time and again saying that the word possession is not demonic or negative word, and there is a about the word etymology of this word. There is a chapter warning. We found that the entire chapter is all about this etymology of this word, and here the possession is also a kind of awakening. We find that the person who claimed that he or she is possessed with something, they are awakening new vision, new personality, or we can say new understanding. But the thing is, like people usually taking it in negative term, so it will become problematic. And then there are three names of the place that are also stand for another name of country or the places that previously discussed. So I'm not going to discuss it again. Now the second theme is historification of myth and mythification of history. So there are lot many myths and name of places are there in the novel, and that are also that are also existing in real world. So there is a name of places are Venice, Sundarban, Gito, and Sicily. Or there are three images or symbols are given in the novel. The first is when we see the first image, we find that the image is look like a snake or gun hooked like a snake and guns. But in the reality, the word is a Hebrew. This is the first word of Hebrew language, or we can say first letter of Hebrew language. And the second word is island within island. That is seems like its historical location is ghetto, and the third one is look like spider, but in actual this its historical location is foundry. Now we can say that the myth is a history. It's not just imaginary thing. So when we read the novel, we find that the novel might talking about 17th century, because there are reference of plague, then the fire and banduki sadagar, and all these things are happened around the 17th century, so we can place that novel there. Now we find that there is an incident of gun merchant there who is trapped by pirates and sold in the slave market. So in present time, we can able to compare this with the indication of human trafficking in present time. Then there is a journey of Tipu and Rafi, and the journey of Bilal and Kabir are there in the novel, that we can compare with the examples of slave trades in present time, but it is in different manner. Then we can say that the concern of myth is in novel is a historical truth, not universal truth. Now the third one is climate change. In the novel Gun Island was written after the book, another book of Amitav Ghosh, that is the Great Derangement, Climate Change, and the Unthinkable. So there are several questions raised about the change raised in the novel in this book, The Great Derangement, and many scholars are believing that the Gun Island is the answer of that question. So in the book The Great Derangement, Climate Change, and the Unthinkable, it is divided into three parts, that is story, history, and politics. So in the first part there is a story. So we can say that climate change is like seems like unreal and uncanny, that people are not usually focusing on that, or we can say not paying attention to that. Same way, we find that there is a story in the novels. There is a story of Mansa Devi and the story of gun merchant, and other stories that are unreal or uncanny. So it is quite similar, we find. And then there is a section two is about history. So in the section 2, we find that the role of colonialism in climate crisis. So we find that colonial idea development is a colonial idea, and to make beautiful roads and big buildings, that all are the idea of came from colonialism, and to do that we are harming nature, and due to that climate change are happening. So this how this colonial idea are related to the climate change. In the section 3, we find that politics is about politics, and according to Amitav Ghosh, like capitalism is a responsible for a damage we are doing to the climate. For example, there is two films, Sherni and Don't Look Up. In Don't Look Up, if we see that there is a story that comet is coming from the space, that is huge comet than the Earth, and um, there is astrologers who are telling that we must stop this comet, but there is a capitalist person who want to take minerals from that comet. So because of that, the earth was at last the earth was destroyed. And the Sherni is also talking about the climate change, and about capitalism and other things. Now there is a list of words that are there in the novel, and that is related to climate change. I'm not going to read this, but you can find much more list of words than this also. Now the another one is migration or human trafficking and refugee crisis. So there are three major reasons of migration of people. There is a war and natural disaster, religious migration, and the climate refugees. So the novel is focusing on mainly two locations. The first one is Sundarban and the another one is Venice. So when we see that both these sites, we find that these are the sinking sites. And there is a now we if we look into the reasons, there are the natural calamities are there. So natural calamities are there, and in that we find the story of Lubna Khala. That Lubna Khala is there is a cyclone in the village of Lubna Khala, and they has to shift, and because of shifting they had to shelter under the tree. And there she find that there is a lots of snakes in that tree, and that bites her brother and to her niece, and because of that both of them died. So everything, she said that everything's gone now, the house, the people, the water's taken it all. So this how that due to climate change people are suffering, and people are dying because of that, because of cyclone that is caused by climate, because of climate change. Now the second one is communal violence. There is a story of Bilal and Kabir that we can understand by this original lines. There is a lines that one day there was a fight. Bilal is telling this. My uncle and cousins attacked my father. My uncle and cousins attacked my father and me. So Kabir come to our defense and knocked my uncle down. After that, it was like a riot. Kabir and I managed to get away, but from then now we had to be constantly on the run. So it is also Kabir and Bilal's story is also about that how much hard the situation is, like how much hard the migration is. They has to constantly run away from one to another places. They has to live under the threats, and they under the fear. All these things are there. It is showing the negative side of migration. Now the third one is poverty. That is there is a story of Tipu and Rafi. Both are living in the Sundarban, and it is very hard to survive in Sundarban because of low economic opportunities and economic condition. So they have to migrate at another places. And Rafi telling the story that we spent 2 weeks in Dhaka, and then the Dalal put us on the minibus along with a group of other men. I was carrying only a backpack, and so was Tipu. We had some clothes, a bit of food, and around 250 50 US dollars each. That's all. So that is showing the poverty of them. Now there is positive side of migration also. There is a socio-economic condition that there is a story of Palasha. Palasha is migrated to Italy as a student, and he was wealthy, educated person. He is telling his story that I came to Italy as a student. You see, which sets me apart from most Bengali migrants. Back back in Bangladesh, my circumstances were completely different from theirs. Most of them are from villages and small towns, as we see Bilal, Kabir, and Rafi, and all they. While my father is banker in Dhaka, my older brother is a civil servant quite high up. I studied at Dhaka University and even have a degree in management. For some years, I worked as a manager in multinational corporations. I used to go to work in a car every day, wearing a suit and tie. So this is the positive side of migration. Now my learning outcome. So my learning outcome is myth is a history. Then another one is traveling is after understanding the themes, I came to know about this point that traveling is a beneficial for personal development. Nature is a reflection of human behavior. For example, due to civilization, if we are destroying nature, then we has to face several kind of calamities, natural calamities and natural disasters, and we has to suffer. So this how nature is a reflection of human behavior. To help a friend, the way Rafi helping the Tipu, this I have heard in one of the while watching the video of one of the theme. Now world is a more complex than we think. Then the sixth one is good mental health is important. Then 17, never give up. And there is two lines that I like the most in the novel. That is, first is the possibility of our deliverance lies not in the future but in the past, in a mystery beyond memory. And another one is people think that knowing the future can help you prepare for what is to come, but often it only makes you powerless. Thank you.
So now article very briefly I will discuss 5 articles related to this novel. Very first is from the Sundarbans to Italy eco-critical concern in the Hungry Tide and the Gun Island by Amitav Ghosh. In this article, Pranav, Dr. Pranav talk about the how both the novel is talk about the eco-critical concern and the Hungry Tide is the character which came in Hungry Tide. It is the character in the Gun Island. Some character are continuous of the novel. The second article is the Gun Island, a tale of myth, migration, and climate change. This article is talking about the myth in the both the novel in Hungry Tide and the Gun Island is also talking about the migration issue in the novel discussed by the writer and the climate change. Planetary Los Angeles climate realism and translation narrative in Amitav Ghosh Gun Island. This article, which is talk about critical. This article make critic of the novel, like why writer choose LA Los Angeles for the setting of the novel, as a which one setting is the rural area of Bengal and another is the Los Angeles. Then he gives some reason that there is many other things also which he can discuss, but why he choose this place and some negative aspect. And he also make the point that if we want, what writer want to say that if we want to make our present better, then we have to look past. But the Edwin Gilson make a point that if we want to progress, then we have to show future, not a past. The crisis of climate and immigration in Amitav Ghosh Gun Island. This article discuss about how climate change and migration became more global issue in today's time. Like everyone wants financial stability and don't want to be a rural. And there is how the both the character Tipu and Rafi want to migrate from the Sundarbans to another country where they get information from the social media. In the article, Trina Bose and Amrita also criticized the using of the technology, that how technology encouraged the youngster to make decision without thinking other other thing. They are inspired by the watching social media and impressed by the photos and decide to go the Venice. This is the photo of the migration happened in last 5 or 10 years. Gun Island is not a fiction but a prediction that how the thing which Amitav Ghosh discussed in the novel in 2000. Amitav Ghosh starting writing novel in 2016, and whatever he talked about the Los Angeles, which became true in the 2019. So Panchal tried to say that how the fiction of his became the prediction, that it became real in the 2 days time. So my learning outcome is that after the reading of the 5 or 10 article, I came to know the 5 different perspective of the novel. First article came to know about the climate and connection of the two novels. The second article about the myth and migration in the novel. The third article is about the critical approach toward the setting of the novel. The fourth one is about the issue of climate and migration, and the final article talks about how the fiction became reality in today's time. These are the citation. Thank you.